Hello everyone, welcome to the new video. I'm really glad to have you here today. I died twice, in 1992 and 1993. My first death was very dark. I was a bartender in a bar and I drank too much and vomited and choked on my own vomit. I exited my upper body and hovered above it. I thought I would go to the light, but it didn't happen, and I started hearing evil voices and noises. Small black creatures started to enter from the floor of the room. Soon I found myself face to face with an evil being. I thought to myself that I am a denier. Years ago, I had aborted my baby, and I felt so guilty that I didn't want to believe anything because then I would have to pay for it. I felt that this demonic creature was trying to hypnotize me and persuade me to go with him. I thought to myself that if this being is real, then God and Christ and all those things must also be true. At that moment, I called God and Christ and asked them to come to my side. To my surprise, God and Christ appeared, and God was on my right side and Christ was on my left side. The eyes of that demonic creature flashed and quickly went out of the window. And those small and dark creatures also disappeared with him. I asked God why they had come to take my soul. He said that my soul was conquerable. I had abandoned my faith and I had crushed myself so much that I had no faith left in me. It made me so vulnerable that they could take my soul with them. Thank God I asked for help. During the year after this incident, I cleaned up my life and behavior. I stopped drinking alcohol and left the world of partying and working in bars and nightclubs and changed my life. Shortly after, I met my first husband. From the first meeting, I knew that one day I would marry him. Within 2 weeks, he proposed to me. One day, when I was packing my belongings to leave my current home and move to my fiancé's house, I felt stressed and sad, wondering if what I was doing was right. Suddenly, my heart sank and its pulse became irregular. I have an inherited severe heart condition that runs in my family for a long time. For this reason, I was no surprise to have heart palpitations at such a young age. A few moments later, I felt a very intense pain in my chest area, as if a knife had been inserted into my heart. Immediately, like the first experience, I felt the upper part of the body and remained suspended above it. Suddenly, a big brown bird appeared and dived down and grabbed me from the back and lifted me from the top of the bedroom and the roof of the house. We were also soaring towards the sky. I remember looking down and seeing the ground where everything was getting smaller and smaller. As we entered these very bright clouds, we entered a vast and empty space. I found myself in a very large white room. Complete silence reigned. I felt a very strong feeling of love that was beyond endurance. This was very deep. I felt that my ears were vibrating and pulsating due to the pressure. There was a lot of pressure there, and it took me a while to get used to it. That bird finally sat on a chair, but it seemed that this chair was a shining cloud. I felt love oozing out of the chair and penetrating me. I was just absorbing all this love. The only way I can describe it is that this energy came up and entered me. I looked down to see where the energy was coming from. But When I looked up again, I saw someone there who I immediately remembered from my first NDE experience. He was the same luminous being who stood to my right in the first experience. I wanted to call him God, but at the same time I realized that he has many names, that I felt that these countless names were being downloaded. I asked him what name to call him. He said that it does not matter what name you choose to call the Divine Spirit. It is important to talk to God and read this energy every day and connect to it. I looked up and saw God moving away from me and Christ disappearing, smiling. I began to worry and thought that now must be the time of judgment and now my abortion will be considered. But suddenly I found myself sitting on a chair in front of a semicircular table. God was there in front of me, and the old spirits, who were 12 in number, were beside him. God said that these are the council of men. I remember thinking to myself, so where are all the women? The council members started laughing. I realized that they could understand my thoughts. All our communication was through thought. They said that you have too much feminine energy, but what you're seeing now is masculine energy, because you have been so damaged by masculine energy, or its imbalance. We have brought you here to find this balance and understand how much you are loved and that you should love yourself as much as we love you. The main person among the 12 told me that we are very happy that you didn't commit suicide. I have thought about suicide many times in my life. They told me that when a soul commits suicide, it creates a sudden break in the matrix that causes it to enter a long cycle, and it will take a lot of time and energy to break out of the cycle. Take out after the soul exits that cycle. It must return to earth and experience the same life and all the things that caused him to commit suicide all over again until he learns his lessons. The Council of Elders told me that we brought you here so that you first of all understand that you must return to the world, because you have an important mission and many things to do. Second, understand how much we love you and you should love yourself as much. Your first death was because you didn't love yourself, but you have to find the self-love within yourself. They kept repeating that love yourself, love yourself, love yourself. They also emphasized several times that there is a lot of work to be done. I replied, "Oh my God, what am I supposed to do? I used to be a bartender and an alcoholic. I didn't do well in school and I failed my 12th grade. I was a messed up person and I don't know what someone like me could do that was supposed to be so important and profound." They got together and decided to show me something. They showed me what opportunities I would miss if I didn't look back. Suddenly, something like an orb appeared in front of me, which I realized was some kind of ninth-dimensional hologram. I didn't know what the ninth hologram was, but that's what I was told. It was like a sphere with a cube inside and four pyramids meeting at one point. A cube pyramid inside a sphere. This point was very bright. When I looked closely, I could see movement in it. I was immediately absorbed into it and passed it through something like a wormhole and had two experiences at the same time. In one experience, I saw a beautiful little girl with brown hair and blue eyes. She was full of beauty and vitality. I saw her birth and how I took care of her and played with her. Although I never had the intention of having a baby in the world, this experience was very real. At the same time, I had another experience. I saw another girl with golden hair and blue eyes, and again absorbed all aspects of her birth, growth, and adolescence. She was very fond of cooking and wanted to become a chef. I understood if I return to the world, I will have a child. My God, it was unbelievable for me because I had accepted that I would never have children. I came out of the hologram and was excited and kept saying, "Oh my God, I'm going to have a baby." They said, "Yes, we want you to see what you will miss if you don't look back." I told them, "I am convinced. I'll be back. When can I be back?" I was excited and counting the moment to come back. Just when I was ready to return, God came to me and said, "Before you return, is there anything you would like to ask and take that back to earth with you and give it to others?" I thought to myself that it's a difficult and deep question and I couldn't think of anything. Suddenly, I saw a point of light that came quickly towards me and placed itself behind my ear, energizing the pineal gland in the center of my brain. I immediately knew what question to ask. I said that I understand that God loves everyone, even a rapist, a criminal, a murderer, and even those who do the most cruel things. How can God love such people? It's very simple, he said. And with a wave of his hand, I was transported to another place. I was sitting there on a chair, but this was me younger, and a counselor was also sitting there with me. The counselor said, "Okay, now we are going to go over all the things you've chosen to learn on the other side." Then he got up from the chair and walked away from me, and the scene stopped and froze. At that moment, the younger version of me, who was sitting on the chair, came to me and greeted me and said that I am your memory self and your observer self. Then he went and sat down again and said, "Let's review the things you are going to learn on earth." I was shown that my name would be Cary and that I would be sick at birth and have kidney stones for the first 14 years of my life. My memory itself was very happy with what it saw, but my witness said, "Really? I mean, are you really happy to be sick like this and be sexually abused and all that?" At that moment, the consultant came out of that frozen image again and entered the scene there. And everything else in the scene froze and stopped. He said, "What your memory itself recalls, which you will voluntarily forget, are the 5 lessons of life. As long as you apply these 5 lessons in every aspect of your worldly life, you're here to grow spiritually." And that's why she's excited to see these difficult experiences, because every experience is an opportunity to apply those 5 lessons. When you do this, you will grow beyond imagination. Again, the consultant went and sat down, and a hologram appeared in which I saw the image of my parents. I could choose my parents and they could choose me. We agreed that they would be my parents on earth. I thought to myself, does my own memory remember my father's habit of gluttony and alcoholism on earth? Because those years were very difficult for me and my father's mood went up and down constantly. The counselor said that your memory understands well why your father was such an energy person and feels a compassion for him and forgives him. He behaves that your father will be great for the lessons you are going to learn in life, and she loves him unconditionally. When you get to the other side, you will both have the opportunity to practice this love and forgiveness. Then the counselor went and sat down again. Suddenly, 12 bright and beautiful beings appeared in the room. They came and stood behind the counselor. The counselor told me that this is your spiritual family. Everyone has a soul group and family that travels with them throughout their lives and guides. That's why when you meet one of them on the ground, you immediately feel that you know him. Then he said, now which two of you 12 would volunteer to go the ground and play the role of sexual harasser and rapist in my case? That's when I said, no, this is too much. I can't go on. The counselor invited to me to be quiet and said, may I ask you to just watch and trust? I also sat and looked and said to myself, very well, I don't really know what this is. Two people from the group came forward and volunteered for this work. They were lifted up from their place and suddenly rushed to the ground. We were all watching the two of them, and we could feel each of them enter their mother's womb. I could see their mother's alcoholism and the difficult conditions they had seen birth and all the pain and suffering in their lives and hear all the screams and moans. Both of them had a hellish start to life and both had a very difficult life on earth. All of us, me, my memory, and the counselor and the other 12 watched them grow up, right up until the moment before I left. Again, everything stopped and froze, and I turned to the counselor and said, I only remember up to a certain point in time, and I can't remember after that, and I wanted to know what happens after that. The counselor told me that when needed, the memory of that episode will come back to you. But for now, we want you to focus on 5 life lessons. Note that those who sexually abused you were among your best friends in the spiritual world. Those who hurt you the most are your best friends. They volunteered to experience a very difficult and painful life on earth and give you the opportunity to practice 5 life lessons: unconditional love, forgiveness, compassion, faith, trust. Not only about them, but also about myself. To love yourself unconditionally, to believe that you are on the right path and nothing happens with the purpose and cause. And to trust that God has a great purpose and plan for you in all these events. To have compassion and forgiveness not only for them, but also for yourself. They finally convinced me to come back, and I did. When I returned, I spent a year married to my first husband, which was a very good life, and then I had our first daughter, who had black hair, and then our second daughter, who had blonde hair. I started working as a social counselor and a therapist to help people find their inner light. From that experience, I realized that I still keep many things inside me and I carry with me that I need to release them. I remembered the words of my mother, who always said that today's tragedy is tomorrow's blessing, and this experience made her words more alive and meaningful. I understood that everything will be right in the end. Our mission here is to grow spiritually by whatever means we can with love, hope, happiness, by throwing away all the garbage we carry around that doesn't serve us, by trying in becoming all that we can be, by applying and living these five lessons in our daily lives. From this experience, I understood that all spiritual teachings and religions try to bring us closer together and bring everyone to a common point, which is the call of the divine spirit. In my opinion, one of the biggest problems of humanity is the problem of negative and poisonous thoughts that spread like waves among us and affect us all. It's our duty to start and focus on love and light, on laughter, silver, abundance, and everything that is good. It's a choice, and the best spiritual practice and work you can do is to treat your body, mind, and spirit with unconditional love and focus on spiritual growth.